Dog play is moving so quickly. This communication is happening so rapidly. Any person, whether they call themselves a trainer or not, trying to convince you that humping is something to correct is just outright uninformed. Nice little mimicry going on there. Shake. Oh, you shook? Okay, I'll shake too. Nice body language communication. At one point, the dog is going to be the more dominant dog, and then in the same play session, perhaps 30 seconds later, that same dominant dog is going to become the submissive dog. That's what we're looking for. Ooh, oh my God. Yes, I love watching him get down and stalk like that. Like, that is so cool.
And I can't figure out how to redirect that nibbling on my sleeves and attacking me to a toy or just anything else.
A guardian offering a stuffed animal to their dog is being like, oh, you want to play basketball? Let me offer you tennis instead. It's like, they're both balls, but they're completely different games, bruh. Can leashes impair the play and safety of the play? 100%. You will see both of these dogs are frustrated by being on leash. It's very normal for dogs to play through pain in the same way that people play through pain. What is important is, can they end a session before it gets too hard on anyone's body? She's always late to the party. They pull the toy through, and then Marnie's finally turning around, and that's right when the toy is pulling through again. And Marnie's like, well, screw you then. Let her decide. Does she want to go after the toy? Does she want to stare at the toy? Does she want to hold that tension? Right here, help. There, that's it, right there. That is the moment. Watch them all move in that wide circle together. People think they're just like running, right? Like, oh, running is so good for them. But what they don't understand is that's their social. That's a social movement. You can see how much space he's put between his nose and his ears. A lot of gap in that cheekbone. Look at how close his ears are here. Captain comes in. He's like, hey, bud, what's up, then? Yay, I'm Captain. He makes himself immediately low. He lowers that head. He puts his tail off to the right, really tucks himself, goes straight up to her groin. Like, did you want to smell my rear? Is that going to be really helpful for you? They're going to do this nice little circular sniff, which is really polite. We can see how tight she's holding herself in this square posture. Here is a nice competitive moment where Ripley's going to spark a little bit of competition. They think the dog who's guarding is trying to be mean and aggressive and da-da-da-da-da-da, when the dogs are just playing competitively. It's like, bruh, look at any sport humans have designed for ourselves. Okay, we love competition too. There's nothing wrong with competition. She barks and then she looks back at mom. Mom, bark, mom, bark, bark, bark. Mom. We can definitely hear the difference between a bark that is meant for other dogs versus a bark that is meant for not just dogs to hear. So there is a little bit of a standoff here. And then he's gonna shake it off and be like, diffuse tension, diffuse tension, diffuse tension. And Lola's gonna be like, okay, let's diffuse. You can even watch him go from alert and like, look how pulled up he is here when he's looking at her. And then he's like, oh, you're engaged in something. And now watch him like decompress. You could literally watch it in his body language there. So this is a play-specific dog behavior workshop, and I want to first go on a general outline of what you can expect in this workshop. I'm first going to, on a high level, talk about some of the principles we know are true about dog play, like some basic things you should know. Then we will transition to any videos that were submitted, and then we will open it up for just a general Q&A. We're going to restrict the Q&A to just play behavior questions. Some general things that you should know about dog play. First and foremost, whenever we are talking about any kind of behavior, dog, elephant, human or otherwise, there's no such thing as like always true. Behavior operates on sort of a spectrum, and that spectrum is going to be dependent on a lot of things, namely, if we're going to simplify it, namely ancestral genetics. So, what happens far, far, far past, us, what happens immediate genetics. So what is mom and dad doing? So what are the breeds or breed of that dog? It also has to do with epigenetics. So what perhaps trauma or other significant event has changed the dog's behavior. And then, of course, it also has to do with learned experience. And then finally, it has to do with the dog that they're actually playing with and the social dynamic, who are they in a group with. When we're talking about these principles, I want you to always keep in mind that while we have a general guideline, it's not meant to be taken as gospel, and we always want to look at the dogs in front of us. We always want to look at the context and the relationships of who's playing at that time. Some things that we do know based on scientific literature. We do know that when dogs are playing, particularly when they are playing with other dogs of the same species, they are going to take pauses. And these pauses have been timed at approximately the 3-second mark or the 30-second mark. It kind of depends on what you constitute as a pause. But in general terms, you can think about we are looking for breaks or pauses in the relationship with the dogs between the 3-second mark to the 30-second mark. Now, I know I haven't given you a visual of what that looks like. We will see it a lot in the videos submitted today. I've already seen it several times in just a few that I've looked at. So you will get many visual opportunities to see what those pauses actually look like between dogs. But we do know that healthy play is a continuous pause, hold tension, release tension, interact. We also know that healthy dog play does hold tension. Now, when we say hold tension, what does that mean? Well, for example, a lot of times when guardians are looking at two dogs playing, they will look and they'll see that both dogs got stiff all of a sudden, and there was just a stare off. And they will assume that that stiffness is inherently danger, that there's about to be like an explosion. And quite frankly, even if a dog has absolutely no aggression, absolutely no reactivity history, or they have a lot of aggression, a lot of reactivity history, either way, that tension is normal and can be perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, nothing to like be alarmed by. So what we would be using as a barometer for how much is too much tension is what is the communication effectively between those two dogs in that tense moment. If there's a standoff and they're staring at each other, is one of them trying to disengage and feels like they can't escape? Is one licking their lips continuously and averting eye contact? That might imply that the dog no longer wants to play and is trying to send some cutoff signals. So we're looking at the whole picture of what is happening in that tension moment. We're not just saying, oh, there's tension, there's stiffness, that must mean that there's danger. That would be a very large leap, and we don't want to draw that conclusion. The next thing that we want to look at, or that we know about dog behavior, specifically dog play behavior, is that it is very often, not always, but very often circular. And what I mean by that is if you're watching dogs play, again, we will pull up videos that demonstrate this visually a lot, but if we're watching dogs play, we will see that they move their bodies, either like their bodies are shaped, kind of in a half moon angle, or at the very least, they are rotating in circles. They are running in circles. There's a lot of circular motion happening in the relationship as they play. They may, stand off and stare at each other, but those are usually, it is not constant, right? And so if there is a moment where they're staring off and they're facing off each other parallel, it's usually going to be broken by some sort of movement. The next thing that we know a lot about dog behavior is that they will very often pounce, tackle, run into, body slam. All of those things are perfectly normal. It would be actually deleterious in some cases for guardians to step into too much body slamming, as long as everybody in that play moment is comfortable with the body slamming, is comfortable with the forcefulness of the play. And that kind of segues me into the importance of finding an appropriate playmate, an appropriate play style. Now, we do have, like, if I'm gonna try to get some puppies to play, and I'm working with a really, really young litter, for example, and I want them to start learning how to play with other dogs that are not just within their litter, I am going to have probably a moment of pause where I'm thinking about what are the breeds or the play styles that are in more alignment with the breeds in front of me, because we know that certain breeds are going to be more inclined. For example, it probably doesn't make sense to put a pitty with a little, Bichon Frise and expect that their play style is going to be exactly the same. It doesn't matter that they're both sociable. The way that they enjoy play is probably very different. And that's not bad. That's not wrong. Neither dog needs to be corrected. It just is. Okay. And by the way, while there is more variation in the species of dogs than there is in the species of humans, it is also true for humans, right? Different humans, even children, have different play styles. And, just because they have different play styles doesn't inherently mean that one child was wrong on the playground and the other was right. It just means they're not the right fit. We got to find other people who like to play with each other, okay? Sometimes it's not that we have a dog who is antisocial, but it is that we have a dog who is not paired with a proper playmate who can reciprocate in the same way that he likes to play or she likes to play. Some other general principles that we want to review. We have different body signals or body postures that we're very familiar with in play. The one that everybody knows is called the play bow. While the play bow is very often correlated to positive things, it doesn't mean that it is always a good thing and everybody is happy and everything is positive, hunky-dory. It can be that a play bow is a stress signal. So again, we're looking at the context, we're looking at the big picture, all of the behavior, all of the information in front of us at that moment. We're not just assuming that because a dog did a play bow, that inherently means everything is okay. The other one that's very common is a forefoot stab, which we will see it a couple of times in the videos today. Forefoot stabs can take place on grass or the ground, right? It can also take place on a dog or a playmate. That kind of goes back to the individual's play style and whether or not their playmate is okay with having a pounce on them in that way. The other is mounting, which a lot of people colloquially understand as humping, but the mounting behavior is heavily correlated with play. And any person, whether they call themselves a trainer or not, who's trying to convince you that humping or mounting is a negative behavior or is inherently something to intervene or correct is just outright uninformed, because there is such a wealth quite frankly, of data that shows that mounting behavior is very often correlated to play, and that some playmates don't think 3 times about it. They couldn't care less. Okay. Both genders, or both sexes rather, can mount. It's not just a male thing. And if they have an appropriate playmate and they are mounting, the playmate literally couldn't care less sometimes. When we're looking at a dog who is mounting, first and foremost, we're trying to establish why it's happening. If it is an early stress response in the dog's repertoire, such that it happens early in the dog's arousal, then it's probably going to be dismissed a little bit sooner and not be corrected or intervened with sooner, because at that point, we're just going to look at the other dogs in the play session and see if they care or not, right? And if they don't, then so be it. If they do care, then we're going to reevaluate some things. We'll talk about that later. If, on the other hand, that behavior comes later in the stress response, later in the arousal levels, then I'm going to decide, is the dog in front of me mounting because he's trying to tell everyone that he's starting to become overstimulated and overwhelmed? Even if he's having a good time, even if he's wagging, even if he tells you, Mom, this is the greatest thing in the world, he may have started to mount because the event is just becoming overstimulated and it's time for a little bit of a decompression, a little bit of a break. At which point we're just going to take a pause. We're going to separate everybody. We'll get some water. We'll do some calm belly rubs, and then we'll reintroduce when the dog in front of us tells us they're ready. Okay. So Team Banana Cash, I know you guys have a good chunk of videos in here. My question for you, Maya, is, and Jonathan, can you unpack what we're looking at in the videos or any particular questions that you have?
Real quick, we appreciate you. And I'm sorry there are so many videos.
Yeah. Big thanks for the extra workshop. So I think our biggest thing between the two, obviously we have Banana and Cash, both pitties. Cash is 2 to 3 times the size as Banana. As far as play styles, Cash is a little, I call it baby shark. He'll like grab and latch on to Banana in like the neck areas. Banana could care less.
You'll see it in the video 1 entry.
Banana could care less. We keep them, I wouldn't say separated all day long, but there are definitely times like when I go down to my office, Banana comes with me, Cash stays up in the main area. And I think one of the trouble spots is like if Cash knows that Banana is coming upstairs, can hear him, whatever, when we open the door, Cash will like immediately not charge, but like get in Banana's face, get up in his space, not allow him to like freely walk out into the room, and then like bitey. I don't think it's truly aggression or anything like that. I mean, they're best of buds. There are very few interactions where it's usually Banana playing too much and Cash being like, okay, I'm done with this, but Banana's not even 2 yet. So that drive is there and he doesn't know when to stop and he'll get overtired and he's just way too much for everybody involved. So again, our main concern would just be the baby sharking. I don't know if that's something that we really should stop. Again, for me, it's more that it leaves like marking on his skin and like at times he's like broken through the skin. It doesn't feel like Cash is trying to hurt him, but I think maybe size or anything else. So if you deem or see something that you see as problematic and you have strategies for us as far as ways to curtail it or work on it with the both of them, or if it's just we need to manage better, I think that would be probably numero uno, biggest thing on our priority list. The other thing just being Banana's drive overall being too much.
Yeah.
So I thought you said Cash is the one that's mouthing on Banana, right?
So every play session with them is a like a circuit. So like it'll start with Cash just immediately latching onto Banana in a play way, but it's latching. Then it turns into like much more equal play. Cash will kind of like handicap himself a bit. And then it turns into like, okay, because Cash is like an American Bully mix and he's like 85 pounds and he gets tired after 10 minutes. But Banana is not that and he can go all day. So Cash will be tired after 10 minutes and then he'll start to tell Banana like, no, thank you. And Banana does not pick up on that. And so he will continuously be like, okay, but now will you play? Okay, but now will you play? And then that's where it kind of ends. Either we'll intervene because they both need a break, or we can end up having everyone relax somehow. In the videos, we're not really managing or intervening at all, mainly just for the sake of demonstrating for you. Typically, we will if we feel we need to.
And just so that I'm sorry, this is Cash. No, this is Cash. This is
Cash is on, yeah,
Cash is
on the bottom.
lighter and bigger.
so Cash is on the bed, Banana standing over.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cash is the blondie. As far as vocal, Banana is definitely the vocal one of the two.
Oh yeah, that's pretty
Um,
typical for him.
We've determined it's his way of telling everybody he's having a blast, but this is life.
Yep. I don't know.
They're pretty ridiculous. Banana actually humped quite a bit as a puppy, and then once he was neutered, it went away, and it has very kind of come back a bit. They're kind of
I'm going to unpack my thinking. I'm just trying to gather information right now.
no worries.
How old is Cash?
About 5 or 6.
Yeah. Okay, so this is actually a really good video too. And to be honest, guys, what I'm going to unpack here is also true for the other videos that I showed. So what's interesting is Cash, I think, first of all, yeah, he does use his mouth a little bit more, but because he's older, he's kind of a little bit more sophisticated in his play. One of the things that we see a lot, I'm going to mute it while I talk, and then we'll come back to some of the vocalizations. One of the things that we see in older dog play is that they tend to resort more towards their mouths a little bit more than they do with their bodies as puppies. That's perfectly normal. There's nothing unusual about that. And there's a lot of theories on why that would be. But to me, what I see is there's a lot of healthy pauses here, and I'll point them out. So there's a pause, 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 there's a diffusion and circular motion. Oh, okay, loved this. This was beautiful. Okay, so if I go back to here, here's a pause, right? They're going to pause in a second. There's a pretty little circular motion. And in fact, if even on this screen, guys, remember earlier I told everybody there's a lot of circular positioning in dog play. I want you to see how Banana is going to turn his body. See how he's in kind of literally banana curving for one thing. I don't know if that's why you call them banana. So there's Cash doing a nice little banana curve as well. So they're going to break this tension up with a nice little circle, which is very healthy. And Banana's going to say, okay, we're ready to go again. Let's tackle, right? And so he's going to jump on Cash. And what I love is when I play this, I want you to guys all watch just Banana's response to Cash's reciprocation, okay? And then I'll break down what I see. So Banana's trying to initiate again. Hey, man, let's tackle. Cash is like, let me go back a little bit further. That'll help you. So they're doing some circular. There's pausing. There's pausing. There's lots of pausing. Banana's like, let's go again, but brother, let's do it. And Cash is like, I'm not really about that. And so Banana's like, okay, let me pause again. So he immediately gets off Cash again and just kind of steps off to the side and says, okay, but what about now? Are you ready now? And interestingly, Cash says, yeah, I'm good, but I'm going to use my mouth a little bit more. So I think what you have, there's a nice little body slam. What you have
Banana
here,
is a parkour dog for sure.
what I love about it is Cash really doesn't mind. Cash is like, yeah, you can body slam it into me. And I think that's probably it. They're different, subtly different play styles in that Banana is using his body as a little bit more, and Cash uses his mouth a little bit more. That's not wrong unless the dogs in front of us tell us it's a problem, right? In this case, I think like if Cash is leaving marks on Banana's fur, I would argue Banana's leaving marks underneath Cash's fur and all those body slams.
I have wondered. Okay.
So if they're telling you the bruises are chill, man, like then the bruises are chill until they're not, right?
Yeah.
But we don't, as humans, we don't get to tell them what's too much pain and what's not. They tell us, right? Now, the follow-up to that, which is very important, is do the dogs have a healthy barometer on how to measure their pain? And this may be something you know right out of the gate, or it might be something that you need to observe more. But one of the things that, so it's very normal, I'm going to push play while I talk. It's very normal for dogs to play through pain in the same way that people play through pain. Animals play through pain. Okay, so playing through pain is not inherently bad. What is important is do their brains have a healthy measure of when it's no longer okay to play through pain, right? And can they pause everything and end a session before it gets, too hard on anyone's bodies? That's something that you actually have to, every dog is different. Some dogs are going to be able to measure that, some dogs aren't. But I can tell you that they have so many breaks in their plays.
That's cool. I honestly I didn't know to recognize a 3-second break. I'm really only more familiar with like the 30-second. Like I can tell when they're taking a longer break, but I absolutely did not register the short ones.
They're taking so many breaks. They have such good communication and check-ins with each other. I am kind of curious when you say Cash says no. I'd be curious on what that is. Are you
So
saying
it's a question mark there, and there's two others where I had the same kind of maybe he's saying no, because it starts to get to the point where Banana's like, want to go? Okay, no. Want to go? Okay, no. Want to go? And it's like repetitive. He's like, maybe now. And Cash is, I don't know if he's saying no, but he definitely seems like he's like, not now, not now, not
Banana
now.
is taking so many breaks though? Like, I mean, he takes an exorbitant amount of breaks to check in that I feel like even if Cash was saying no, Cash wouldn't let it get to the place where it really pisses him off, because there's so many opportunities for Cash to be like, bruh, I said stop, right? And he's not doing that. Ooh, nice little decent decompression there with that sneeze. Loved that. Look at the pacing. Oh, Banana is going to mount here. I'd be curious to see how Cash responds to this.
This was like when he was little, he did this a lot, and Cash
is so tolerant.
Incredibly
Cash is
tolerant.
like, whatever, brother.
Patient. Yeah, we'll like just let it go. Like almost to the point, there were plenty of times where Cash would be sitting there looking at us like kind of sad, like, do you see what's happening? Like this is life now. I'm gonna do anything about this or not.
Like, here's the thing. I think you're right that like Banana is asking Cash to continue playing, and I think Cash is getting tired faster than Banana. I think that's true. But that doesn't inherently mean that Banana's not getting the message, right? Even right here, Banana gets the message and he walks away, and he jumps on the couch and like minds his own business, and the moment's over. So he's taking the cues very clearly, right? They're sorting things out. This looks like the entrance one. So I just wanted to look at it and see if there's anything that we can go back to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So a couple things on this. First of all, Cash does what I've seen dogs do like 800 million times. It is very common, statistically common, for dogs to enter a space and start nibbling on with their teeth on another individual. I mean, that has been like documented as a very commonplace behavior. Now, when we look at is it statistically common? Yes, that doesn't inherently mean that it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just means that it occurs, right? So I'm hesitant to say that like we should just completely dismiss when a dog walks into a space and starts nibbling on necks. But when I hear that, I'm kind of like, yeah, like I don't it doesn't mean a whole lot in its own right, right? And I was just like, okay. And so one of the things, just so everyone's very clear, because I know that the positive reinforcement world and dog trainer world likes to get on their high horses about dog parks. All of the researchers whom we adore for studying animal behavior get all of their data by going to dog parks and watching dogs play. Okay. Why we think we're all just sitting around in houses and watching dogs play is beyond me, because that would take 1,800 years to get information. Where they are going to dog parks and they are watching dogs play. Okay. And that is how they are extracting this information. And it is not up to the guardians to say that if a dog is walking into a space and nibbling on a neck, that that is a bad thing, until they have a lot of other evidence and a lot of other behavior to support a claim one way or another. One of the things that we'll look at is how are the other dogs responding to it? We're also looking at how does the moment diffuse? Are they going to go in, nibble a little bit, and then walk away? I can tell you that I don't have the statistics right off the top of my head, okay? But let's say in a study's 72% of the dogs studied went up to another person another dog when they joined the play group and they started nibbling. Of that 72% that did that, let's say, again, these are just made up statistics because I don't have it in front of me. Let's say 2/3 of those would disengage from the group and start doing a circular motion to diffuse some of their excitement within 30 seconds. Well, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for diffusion. We're looking for them to kind of like that initial combustion and go, okay, now I can regulate my nervous system. I can read the space in front of me, and I can mimic and match the play styles in the environment around me. That's what we're looking for in healthy social play. For me, the things that kind of come up that I'm watching is Banana's eyeball size. Like literally it almost looks like his eyes become dilated and he gets a lot of space. Sometimes it almost looks like he's whale eyeing, but I'm not sure because it's a short video and I can't be certain. And definitely he's holding a lot of tension in his ears. When he pulls those roll back, he's got a lot of wrinkles in his forehead. So that it becomes a lot of space in his cheeks. He pulls those cheeks back. A lot of space when he gets a good frame. Right there. So you can see how much space he's put between his nose and his ears. A lot of gap in that cheekbone. And it almost looks like he's either doing a whale eye, or at the very least, he's got dilated eyes. And then in a second, you're going to see him really pull back look how much, that's not a good frame. That's a good frame. Look how close his ears are here. that's much closer than they were in the other videos. And in this case, when he kind of comes in, he's not reciprocating a whole lot. Kind of just, can I get in, please? Okay, I'm just gonna sit here and let you get on for a second. I'm not really reciprocating. I'm just kind of sort of, okay, now I'm kind of sort of, okay. All right, we're doing this. All right. He hasn't really responded yet. So I would be curious what happens on the other side of this video. And at what point does Banana be like, hey, yeah, we're playing now?
Well, it's about 5 minutes long. So if you're curious about when it kind of transitioned, that transition is definitely in there.
There it is. I figured it out. Fixed it, guys. All right. So let's start this over. I see why you had questions now. Yeah, it's a very different game when Banana doesn't really want to play, or at least he doesn't want to play this way. So the thing that I noticed is that it's basically not until 3:10. Yeah, 3:10 is 3:07 is that's how long it took for Cash to stop biting on Banana. Now, is that too long? I don't know. I don't know. Banana and Cash, never met them. Can't ask them. Don't know. So I can't give a definitive answer on that. I could tell you, in most cases, that's quite a long time to go straight with a constant, like, basically, they spend all of this time kind of on the floor and just like mouthing and mouthing and mouthing and mouthing and mouthing with no real like stand up shake off until 3:07. And considering how much tension was in Banana here, I probably would have wanted a sooner break just to make sure that Banana was a willing participant in this type of play style. Because even like here, if I'm gonna let it play, but I'm gonna mute it. Even like here, there's a couple of times where Banana tries to get off the bed and like Cash just kind of pulls him right back. Banana like here's like kind of making himself small and Cash is like pouncing on him. I don't think that Banana's at a place where he feels like he's angry or mad or upset with the way that Cash is playing. I think, there's enough pauses where, like, even that's a pause right there. There's enough pauses where if Banana was really like quote unquote angry with the way Cash is playing, he probably would have escalated it and let him know. But it does make me wonder how much he's enjoying this. That's a pause. It's debatable. And there's no real pauses here. There's no pause there. That's not a pause. Nope. Okay, that's a mini. Well, I don't know. That's debatable too, I guess, because Cash is not really pausing as much as Banana is trying to. Yeah, Cash isn't pausing as much. That's the problem here. So I would be in moments like this, I would be watching Cash. Cash isn't giving enough breaks in this situation. That's a break. That's a break-ish. So that's what, yeah, okay, this is my recommendation after having watched all of this. Again, I'm not willing to tell y'all that like this is like bad and like there needs to be an intervention. Like, I'm not willing to say that. I will say I want you guys to spend some time watching when specifically Cash and Banana are playing like that, where it's more mouthy in nature, it's more stationary. Perhaps Banana isn't as mobile with his body because Cash is doing so much mouthing. And I want you to watch specifically those types of play sessions. And I want you to watch how often Cash is actually taking pauses. Because at least in that little frame, and you have to, can only take it with a grain of salt because it's only one video, but at least with that, Cash isn't giving enough pauses and check-ins, considering he's got a full mouth around another dog's neck. I would just want more like, hey, we chill, we cool, we chill. And if he's not giving those interrupters, then that is when you, mom or dad, would step in and be like, hey guys, what's up? And just ask them to give that interrupter and then see if Banana's willing to go back into it. To be honest, based off of what I've seen so far, Banana probably would be willing to go back into it after he got his water and he got to shake off a little bit, like we saw at the 310 mark. He probably would be willing to go back into it. I think it just to go into the house and have 3 minutes and 10 seconds straight of having a dog gnaw on you and not have any real separation and shake off seems like it warrants more investigation. That's my recommendation. Do you have any clarifying questions on that?
As far as the inner seating, so usually I'm the one walking up the stairs and opening that door. I try sometimes to be the first one through the door so as to put like a barrier through or between the two of them, because in my experience, it escalates quickly. So I'm like, okay, if I stop it or if I get them to slowly engage, then maybe it doesn't go as far. I don't love that it's like that confined corner. It feels like Cash kind of cornering Banana. And then in those moments where you were saying you were noticing the tension in the ears, that's like Banana trying to get away or like make space. And it feels kind of not dominating from Cash, but very much like Cash kind of bullying him to an extent. It doesn't actually usually continue on that long. Like, I think because Maya was just recording it to capture it, like we got a longer snapshot of what usually happens, but that first, say, like minute or two is a snapshot we see regularly. So I guess my clarifying question would be strategies as far as how
you just have to call them off.
Okay.
I don't think you need to do anything other than you could just and see how they respond to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, if that's not working, then maybe you ask them to say their names and ask for a recall and say, hey, will you guys come here and get your treat? That could work. But I really like, instead of turning it into like, oh, we got to break this up, we got to separate, like making it a big event, I would keep it as subtle as possible and just see if them just kind of being like, oh, what's that sound? Will be enough to diffuse the moment.
Okay. It usually looks like the energy is on Cash's side more so than on Banana's. Banana's like tail down, kind of just letting it happen to him, whatnot. And then it's like Cash that needs to be like brought down from the heightened state. Banana's just trying to get to his water bowl and everything else, walk into the room.
But that's not true when they're mobile, when they're in motion more. Because the other videos that I saw, Banana was more heightened than.
Oh, absolutely. No. I meant specifically in that scenario.
Yeah.
In that one snapshot.
When you put it like that, though, like it intuitively makes sense, right? When the game is more played for Cash's play style, Cash is going to get more aroused, Cash is going to be more abrasive. When the game is set up to be more Banana's play style, the Banana's going to get more aroused, Banana's going to be more abrasive. So that in its own right is not the problem. The problem, in my opinion, is not Cash's biting. It's not even how short or long the duration is. The potential problem is Cash able to do enough check-ins when he is in that state with Banana and get permission from Banana that, yeah, we're cool, bruh. Like, this is all right.
Are the check-ins something that can be trained, or that's just they know how to do that, or they figure that out on their own?
Both.
Okay.
Mostly it's an innate response, right? And not only is it innate, like literally ancestors, but it's taught in litters. It's one of the reasons why having dogs be part of litters is so important for their growth, because a lot of those pauses are taught in litters. Mom often teaches the pause to her pups, and you can like train it. We often just train it. In fact, Yuffie was the perfect example. If you guys remember with a border collie, where every time the 3 border collies were running, Yuffie would come back to mom and get her treat, and then Yuffie would go out into that's a pause. And that was a trained, people call that a recall, but really its function is to cause an interrupter, disengage, diffuse the moment, and then start again.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. I think you saw a lot of what we see, and then some, and then a lot. So that's helpful.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like overall you have 0 concerns, and it sounds like they're doing a lot of healthy play and regulation.
From the videos that I've seen thus far, I have not seen anything that's alarming to me.
That's cool.
So for me, what I see in those videos, I see a slightly more sophisticated individual who has a more protective play style of his own body. And I see a more agile dog who likes pounding, likes using his body. And if each partner doesn't mind the other dog's form of play, then I don't really see a reason to intervene, so long as there's enough check-ins, there's enough pauses, there's enough decompression. I saw a lot of sneezes. I saw a lot of heavy breathing, like a lot of hoofs. I saw a lot of walking in circular circles. I saw a lot of walking away and coming back together. I saw a couple of instances where one dog would try to walk away and the other dog would pull them back in. And if the other dog who was initially walking away was like, oh, okay, thanks for re-engaging with me, then that tells me that he's happy, he's willing to continue playing as well. All of that feels very communicative, and I don't know why we would interrupt that.
Okay, cool. Okay.
That's what I would do.
Killer.
So thank you, Team Banana Cash, for coming in. We appreciate that. We are going to switch into who was the next to me in the category. It was Team Yuffie. Team Yuffie, any particular piece of it, like thing that you would like me to look at when I pull up your videos?
Just dog play.
Just what?
Just dogs that play together.
Yep. So just so everyone knows, they're at the top corner right now. They're going to come in frame in a second. I love that you fed her right there. That was so smart.
Ouais, il est grand. Hein?
Are these all, I can't tell, are these all border collies?
Yes.
Yep.
Ouais.
That was a good moment. Okay, we're going to rewind here and we're going to watch this moment for a second. I'm really happy to hear that these are all border collies because that gives us a very niched type of play style that we can talk about. And we see this particularly, border collies are the stereotype, let's say, but we see this very commonly with our herding family. They love, they want big circles. They don't want the tiny little circles that we saw between Cash and Banana. They want these big running extension circles. And you're going to see this right here. They're going to come in together and watch them all move in that wide circle together, right? Move lots of circle right there. Look at that big circle. And what people think they're just like running, right? And like, oh, running is so good for them. But what they don't understand is that's their social. That's a social movement for them, okay? And so you're gonna see that there's less, when you have breeds like this, you're gonna see that there's less contact between the two of them. And if you do get contact, particularly if you have like a healing breed, a breed that heals, not just a healer, you're gonna see that they'll probably bite each other's heels. Ooh, that was a nice moment. We're gonna go back to that. You'll see that they're gonna bite each other's heels when they do get close together, and then they'll spread back out. One of the things that I really work to kind of dismantle is that people presume that this right here is what dog play looks like, as if like this is the quintessential example of what we should all be going for, is like they're hardly touching each other, and when they do, it's just like a little lip, and then they run in circles, and then they chase each other, and look how fun they're running, blah, blah, blah. People think this is like the stereotypical example of what it should be. No, this is what border collies and healers and herding breeds do. One of the things that I love about this, I love how, oh, look at that. I love how there's little moments. Ooh, oh my God. Yes, I don't know if that was Yuffie or not, but that was what I was going for. Oh my God, I'm stealing this video. This is such a cool video. I love watching him get down and stalk like that. Like that is so cool for me. But it doesn't mean that it is good and right and every breed should try to be emulating this. It just means that for their play style, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that pause. We're looking, oh, that dog up there got down. That's Yuffie, okay. We're looking for these pauses where they stop and they stalk each other, right? And then they're gonna chase in a bunch of circles in a second, and then they're gonna stop and they're gonna stalk each other. And there's a lot less physical contact, but that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just, oh, look at that drop. Oh, it's so cool. Oh, I love that. And then let's get together and let's run. Ah, this is a really cool video. Not very often you get like 3 border collies like this all off leash in an open field where they're all safe to just do whatever. There was a nice decompression. Ooh, look at this pause. This was a great, let's say, exaggerated pause. It's not that there aren't sooner pauses, but this was a great exaggerated pause. Well, you'll see them span out. They're going to make this nice little V, and everyone's just going to hold tension for a second. This dog, I have no idea if this is Yuffie or not, but this dog's going to shake it all off, and that's kind of a cue to this guy. Oh, okay, we're going to pause for a second. Let's decompress. We're going to walk away. Let me come back with mom. Yeah, this is a reinforced behavior in Yuffie, so that's why she keeps coming back in, which makes sense. I love watching Yuffie now that I know what's going to happen and I know that it's Yuffie. I love watching Yuffie take note of what the other two are doing and make an informed decision based off of that. So for context, this is Yuffie right here. Yuffie's going to look at this dog first, see that this dog does a shake off and kind of decompress. And then she's going to check over on this dog over here. I have no idea what this dog does because she's all the way out in Timbuktu, but it doesn't matter. We'll see Yuffie kind of look, take information and go, okay, cool. Immediately walk away and come back to mom. to get her treat, and this is acting as her decompression as well. So that was just a very short moment of going, okay, we're pausing for a second, and then we're going to explode again. Lots of cool breaks here. I could probably spend 2 hours just analyzing this video of border collies right here. It's so cool. Let's not do that because we have other videos to here. So let me look at this one.
Non, tu lâches. Non, on n'a pas le droit de jouer, tu lâches.
Team Yuffie, clarifying question. Do we know if this German Shepherd, it kind of looks like a Belgian Malinois, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Malinois.
It is a Malinois. Do you know if it's like a full breed Malinois, or are there any mixes in here?
Full breed.
Full breed, okay.
Non, on n'a pas le droit de jouer, tu lâches.
Oh, that was a good
Et c'est
one.
pas à moi qu'il faut jouer.
Oh, I love that.
C'est avec Sirius. Va jouer avec Sirius. Elle est pas d'accord.
Non, mon toutou. Non. Toi aussi, va jouer avec Yuffie et de jouer avec Malès, là.
Ben là. Et puis grosse bestiole. Qu'est-ce qui se passe?
This Malinois girl.
Ah ouais, tu viens en train de jouer avec Yuffie.
Yeah, this Malinois is a girl.
Alors, tu veux essayer de marcher un peu?
Okay, so let's talk about this video. And Team Yuffie, I don't know do you know the sex of the Malinois?
Sirius is a male.
A male?
Yeah.
Okay.
Neutered.
Yes.
Neutered. Okay, so definitely impaired by the leashes. There are a couple of reasons why leashes can be on during a play station. I know that there are trainers. I'm gonna let this play while I talk. I know that there are trainers who are like, oh, never let two dogs play on leash. To me, if I just look at a video in a silo and I see two dogs playing on leash, I don't jump to the conclusion that they should just be off leash. There's a lot of reasons why the dogs might be on leash. Can leashes impair interaction of the play and the effectiveness and the safety of the play? 100%. And you will see both of these dogs are frustrated by being on leash, and they're taking it out literally on the leash to let everybody know, I do not like this. I think I could be running a hypothesis. Okay, what I'm about to say is a total hypothesis. I have no freaking data to support this. This is just a wild guess from my brain, okay? But I think it would be interesting if it was true. Perhaps Cyrus starts mimicking Yuffie, because Yuffie is going to start biting on the leash first. Look at her go for the leash, right? And then if we turn over to Cyrus, Cyrus is now chewing on the leash too. I think that's interesting. Again, this is just a wild, like, oh, I don't know. And I think it warrants me saying that I have no idea if I'm right or not. But sometimes we'll see trainers on YouTube making an analysis, and they'll say, oh, look, they're mimicking, and then they don't back it up with, I'm guessing. But it could be that that's what's happening here. And it would make sense, especially if, and this is just a hypothetical, I don't know if this is true, but it would make sense if Cyrus was mimicking Yuffie, if Cyrus was not used to playing with Yuffie, if Cyrus was not used to playing with any dog for that matter, if Cyrus wasn't used to playing on leash, it would make sense that he would start to mimic the moment in order to appease or make everybody comfortable on what's happening, right? It's just a way to engage in healthy communication to make everybody more comfortable, namely Yuffie. Now, if we go back to this moment right here, what I really, really loved seeing is, and we haven't talked about this yet, Cyrus is going to put himself on the floor. And it almost looks like Yuffie takes him down, but that's not what happened. He puts himself on the floor, right? He's going to turn over. Watch him turn. Okay, this is really important. Everybody come in close if you haven't been paying attention. And I hope that another video will come up where I can break this down too. A lot of times people are like, oh, the dog, dog A knocked over dog B, and that means that dog A is trying to get the upper hand, and was dog A too aggressive with dog B? No. Very often, very often dog B is putting themselves on the ground and dog A is responding to it in just a millisecond. And that is precisely what happens here. If we watch Cyrus, he's going to push his shoulder right here. He's going to tuck this elbow in and push this shoulder to the floor, and then he's going to flip his rear up in the air. And at the same time that this is doing, Yuffie is responding to that and says, "Oh, you're going to get on the floor? Cool, bro. Let me pounce on your face, because that makes sense at this moment," right? Boom. And turn. Okay, cool. Let me pounce on the top, right? And that just in that millisecond. And that's how fast dog play is moving. If I come out my screen for a second, dog play is moving so quickly. This communication is happening so rapidly. And because humans, it's not that humans can't absorb the information that quickly. It's that the humans are not conditioned to know what to look for. So it's hard for us to process what we're seeing at the speed that it's occurring, right? And so in that little moment, for example, where Cyrus gets in the play bow, there's a nice little pause. You can see that Cyrus is thinking about dropping himself. I think, if I'm going off, remember, I think Cyrus even puts his rear down and he's kind of props himself on his hocks. And so he's initially going down, and then for whatever reason, they pop right back up. And Cyrus ends up eventually saying, "Okay, let me just go on my back for you and let Yuffie pounce on me." That doesn't mean that Yuffie did anything aggressive. It doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It means that they are switching roles, which is a very healthy thing to do in most cases, where at one point, the dog is going to be the more dominant dog, and then in the same play session, perhaps 30 seconds later, that same dominant dog is going to become the submissive dog, right? And they're shifting roles back and forth. That's what we're looking for. I wouldn't say when I say we're looking for it, that's true across the board, because we want to look at the dogs in front of us. But in general terms, particularly if they are stranger dogs, such that they don't have a long play history, they don't live with each other, they haven't spent a lot of hours together, perhaps they play every once in a while, but not a whole lot, or perhaps this is the very first time they're ever meeting, particularly in that more novel stage of a friendship, you're gonna see them switch roles, and one is going to be more dominant, one is going to be more submissive. We're going to go to Team Eris. Melissa, anything you want me to look at specifically?
Nothing specific. We do note that Ripley is just a little bit more heavier on her play, but you'll probably see specifics in that.
Okay, I also see you have Vesper in here. Did you want me to look at that one too, Vesper and Ripley?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with Eris Ripley play. Okay. Lots of pauses there. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to say every single time I see a pause between these two dogs, this is for everyone, because what I want you to hear is how often these dogs are checking in with each other and we don't even realize it, right? There's a pause. There's a pause. There. Oh, that's a pause. That's a pause. That's a pause. That's a pause. So there's these little milliseconds that just look like the dogs are playing, but what we don't realize is they're constantly asking each other, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? We're good? We're cool? We're good? Yep. This is a good video. We're going to rewind it. Ripley, what breeds are in Ripley?
We're actually not sure about her. Probably border collie, but then otherwise we don't know. And sometimes they say boxer or Boston Terrier.
Mhm.
I think a bit of pit bull, but I'm not sure.
So in a second, and this is for everybody, Ripley's going to do a really good example of doing a 4-foot stab into Eris. And I don't remember exactly what timestamp it was, but when I find it, I'll point it out and rewind it for you guys. She's going to do a couple 4-foot stabs, to be honest, but there's one specific one that I think is a good example of what I mean by the dog will 4-foot stab into a dog. There it is. That was one. That was definitely one later. Yeah. So 4-foot stabs jumps are very, very similar. I would say if you wanted to separate them, I look at what if it's a 4-foot stab, I usually will say that the back 2 legs are firmly planted and the front 2 legs are the ones actually doing the work. That's a very like loose definition. I don't want anyone to be like, well, Jenna said that if all 4 are on the floor, then like no. Okay. But I just think if it's better for our brains to simplify and give a clear definition, what I'm looking at is Ripley's back 2 legs are firmly on the floor and she's going to pounce her 2 front legs into Eris. Right. That was kind of a jump, but right there. As we can see, Eris is totally cool with it, right? Like Eris is just like, yeah, bro, whatever, let's go. But I think it's always ironic. The reason I point this out is because it's always ironic to me when people are concerned about like larger breeds doing that. So like if it was Eris doing this to Ripley, perhaps we would say that Eris is being too aggressive just because she's bigger. It's the exact same behavior, right? And then the other thing that I want to point about this video is there's a nice little decompression this last like 4 seconds here. I love how they're playing. They're going to move in a circle. Watch Ripley gives that circle. Eris is going to decompress and put herself down. She's going to mimic, and Ripley's going to mimic and shake it off as well. Some nice little mimicry going on there. Shake. Oh, you shook? Okay, I'll shake too. Let's walk this off and decompress. So a nice little body language communication where they're not necessarily like looking at each other when it happens. Like there's no like eye contact between the 2 of them, but they're taking cues from the other one to be like, oh, okay, we're supposed to break now. I get it. That's fine. Let's look at Vesper and Ripley here. Okay. So we're getting some toy action here. Oh, I love that. Okay, so, this is a good video. I wish it was longer because I would have loved to see what happened in the couple seconds after that.
I think that's about it.
What's that?
I think that was about it. They don't play with toys together very much. So
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that was a fascinating little moment. So one of the things that I think gets misunderstood about resource guarding, it feels like I'm digressing. I'm not. This is definitely on point. Okay. One of the things that gets kind of misunderstood about resource guarding is that they think that the dog who's guarding the thing is like inherently trying to be mean and like protective and aggressive and when sometimes the dogs are just playing competitively. It's just a competition. And anyone who says, well, then it's too rough, it's competition. It's like, bruh, look at any sport humans have designed for ourselves. Okay, we love competition too. There's nothing wrong with competition. And so what we're going to get here is a nice little competitive moment where Ripley is going to kind of, I won, I got the toy. And what I love for this moment is Vesper is trying to kind of spark a little bit of competition, and for one reason or another it kind of looks like Ripley's not having it. Ripley's like, well, I'm not gonna give you the competition you're looking for. But what I love about it is Vesper like puts the toy on the ground and then he uses his eyes. I don't know if you guys can see it, I'll blow it up. He uses his eyes to like look up at Ripley and be like, are you gonna come take my toy? Are you gonna try to come get my toy? And so Vesper kind of has his mouth on it and he's gonna come up for a second. Look at that pause, that tension. He's holding that tension, holding the tension. He let go of it again. He's gonna see, hey, Ripley, are you gonna take my toy? Are you gonna take my toy? Right? There's this nice little tension moment happening, and finally Ripley's like, I'm just gonna disengage a little bit. He kind of lifts his posture up a little bit more. He kind of loosens his tail and looks away. But this was a great example of how a tense moment isn't inherently a bad moment. And sometimes that tense moment is just about kind of playing some healthy competition and seeing like, are you going to antagonize this competition a little bit? Are we going to, go to town on it? It's not about who wins so much as the opportunity to win, right? It's not about the toy. It's about the opportunity to get the toy and fight for the toy. That is the fun in its own right. I want to pause here. Any questions about these 3 videos, Melissa?
No, that's great. Thanks.
Sweet. Thank you. Next, we have Team Lola and Mater. All right. So this is an interesting dynamic because there's a fence between. So just to be clear, this is Mater and Lola, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
This is first thing in the morning. First interaction of the day.
Oh, here. He's a good girl. Play. Can we play? He's a good boy. Too. I know. He's a good boy. Lola's a good girl. Hey, baby, don't fall off the couch. Go get Mater. Go get it.
Okay, so this is a good video because what I'm going to say is going to be obvious, but the behavior that demonstrates what I'm going to say is not going to be obvious to everybody. What we see a lot in this video is a classic example of 2 dogs that are trying to initiate play. So we often see these behaviors between dogs that are beginning a play session, right? But for obvious reasons, there's a barrier. They can't follow through on the desire to play. And so they kind of just get stuck in this loop of initiating, but not actually being able to do anything about it. Like they just it's almost like they're both metaphorically and literally hitting a wall. You're going to see a couple of things. The first is that you're going to see a lot of play bows. Again, play bows don't always mean good things, but they often, especially in the context of 2 dogs playing, very often are going to be an initiation or an ask. Like, would you like to? Is this something that's okay with you? Are you interested in mimicking me? And so a lot of times, and this isn't a Jenna theory, this is like an explanation that has been proposed by researchers, even though there's no way of us knowing this because we can't literally ask the dogs. This is sort of a running guess of why something is happening, a running guess of the function of it. But what we see a lot is that the play bows are a request. Is this okay? Would you like to play? And the other dog offering a play bow is a form of mimicry. And the running explanation for that function is it is an agreement. It is a yes, I would like to, right? So mimicry is not unique to dogs. We see mimicry in a lot of mammals, and there's guesses that it's even outside of mammals as well. So mimicry, initially we discovered it with apes, monkey family, right? And then we started seeing it in birds. We started seeing it in dogs, obviously, and then so forth. So we see that we're going to get a nice little request out of Lola. Would you like to play? There's that little puppy play, pounce. Mater's going to say, yeah, I would like to play. He's going to diffuse that tension. So there is a little bit of a standoff here after Mater says, yeah, I would be willing to mimic you and reciprocate. But perhaps Mater isn't, and I'm just drawing conclusions off this one video in front of me. So take this with a grain of salt. But perhaps Mater is not completely optimistic about how this session could turn out. There's perhaps some reservation. And so what we see is that he actually diffuses the tension pretty overtly and perhaps arguably early. And so he's going to initiate the play. He's going to come over. He's going to say, yeah, I'll mimic you. And then pretty soon thereafter, he's going to shake it off and be like, diffuse tension, diffuse tension, diffuse tension. And Lola's going to be like, okay, let's diffuse. Lola's going to give her a nice little puppy pounce. We get stuck in this loop, look at them mimic each other. Lots of movement. Love the movement here. And even in this angle, what I love is that even though they are at a standstill, quite frankly, I would argue a forced standstill. And that doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that there's a barrier in between them. So for one reason or another, they can't do anything about it. Even in this context, we see angles, we see a circle, right? Lola is not positioning herself directly in front of Mater. And even I would guess, even if she did do that, Mater would probably readjust his body. So even in this context, we see a circle, right? And nice little, like, lots of movement. We're holding tension, but it's not stiff, still, contained, rigid tension. There's a lot of movement. And, it could be argued, I think a person may argue, a trainer may argue, that there's frustration signals here. And I don't know that because I'm not a Lola and Mater expert. I don't live with them. But it could be argued that because there's so much movement in their head and they keep pushing it back and there's a lot of puppy pounces, it could be argued that we're getting some frustration, which would make sense given the barrier there.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I do like this video because it's such a classic example of what we're looking for when we have two dogs initially asking if they'd like to play with each other, especially if you have two dogs that either A, don't play with each other very commonly, like they don't know each other, or B, perhaps there has been history between the two of them that is sensitive, right? And you're looking to bring these two dogs back together. There might be some reservations. Both dogs might have already established associations with that other dog. And there's questions like, is this okay? Is this not okay? When I put two dogs back together, like let's say you have a house that has two dogs who do have a history of playing with each other, do have a history of liking each other, but because of resource guarding, there's also been trauma and confliction between the two of them. And so they've been separated for a while and you're starting to bring them back together. If I was going to start to do that, I would want to see a lot of questions between the two, a lot of them asking each other, is this okay? Is this okay? Is that okay? How do you feel about this? What about that? Whereas if you have a case like Banana and Cash, they still asked each other constantly, but that communication was much less reserved, right? There was a lot more liberty taken with their behaviors. Cash was far more willing to put his teeth right onto the neck of another dog. Banana was far more willing to put 65 pounds up against, as a barrel. You're not probably going to get that with two dogs that have that history, which would make sense. And so we just want to make sure that how they're interacting is on par with the context of the relationship of the two dogs in front of us. Sweet. So now we're going to do Daniela. Yep, there's a pause and a nice little mini shake. Lots of pauses there. Ooh, I love that moment. I love that our darker golden. So in a second, we're going to see lighter dog here is going to say, oh, there's something on the floor. Now, lighter dog could say there's something on the floor because there really is, and she is so enthralled and she's like, must investigate. Or she could be doing that as a displacement behavior and she just needs a moment to herself to regulate her nervous system, right? It doesn't really matter. The real cool part that I love is watching Golden here respond. So there's that pause, initiation play. And as soon as light golden, I think it's a light golden, I don't know, says, oh, look, there's something there. Dark golden immediately, like, you can even watch him, like, or her go from, like, alert and, like, look how pulled up he is here when he is looking at her. And then he's like, oh, you're engaged in something. And now watch him, like, decompress. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. You could literally watch it in his body language there. That is such a nice little response at the moment. Oh, okay. We'll just wait for a second. Really beautiful interaction there. This is a good example of tight circles again. So we're going to see them, if you guys just look at it through a lens of like, let's watch dogs move in tight circles versus what we saw with the border collies in those wide circles. They're kind of on top of each other. Nice motion there. Kind of hard to see their mouths. So like that moment right there, when I say this, you you must, everybody in this room and anyone watching the replay, you must take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. Okay? Because I just wish more trainers would give that disclaimer. But like this moment right here where light dog is going to really tug on darker dog's fur and pull, to me, I don't know what to make of that in just this short clip. What I would want to watch next time though is I would want to watch darker dog's face. And it's a little, just so everyone knows, I can't even see darker dog's face in this video because just the way this is from a distance. So if you can't tell, just know I can't either. But I would want to watch right there. I would want to see how is he feeling about being pulled that way. They do break that moment pretty rapidly. It lasts like, I don't know, 2 seconds or something. So it isn't a long moment. Nice stalk there. Wow, look at that stalk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these two are interesting playmates because they change styles a lot. Like sometimes they give a lot of space, sometimes they're close up to each other, sometimes they're pouncing and more agile, sometimes they're real tight and kind of on top of each other. I would be curious how often they tackle because there's not a lot of tackling going on, but a lot of jumping, a lot of agility going on. I bet they would love agility if they don't play. Okay, so now we're gonna go to Marnie. I'm happy to pull up some dog human play. Let's start with tug and then we'll go to keep away.
Go get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me watch this one again, or first, before I say anything. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that could happen here, but I want to start off with just some of the things we've referenced already. As we know, the dogs pause so often. We're really looking for more opportunities for guardians to pause with their dogs. And I have no idea what the context here is, but Marnie definitely isn't very abrasive or ostentatious with her movements. She's pretty contained. And so it, like even right here where there's a lot of movements and she's always late to the party, right? Like he pulls, or I don't know, they pull the toy through and then Marnie's finally turning around. And then that's right when the toy is pulling through again. And Marnie's like, wait, come back, right? So For me, I would have wanted to see more pause here. So for example, you pull through, yeah, right here, pause, wait. Yeah, so there's just too much movement. Let her pause and catch up and hold that tension. See how she's like, well, screw you then, and she just kind of disengages. Probably because she didn't get her fun out of it, right? So like in this moment, when the toy kind of comes back in, right here, this moment should have paused. Instead of moving the toy right back in, I would have waited for Marnie to orient and let her decide, does she want to go after the toy? Does she want to stare at the toy? Does she want to hold that tension? Let her decide how she wants to break that moment, as opposed to it just being constantly a fluid moment. Right here, she's going to miss the toy altogether. But wait, come back. And then it just kind of gets tangled underneath her and it's constantly moving. There's no hold, right? There's no check-in. Do you want to chase after it? Do you want it in your mouth? What do you want to do with this toy? It's too fluid. I would have wanted to break up that moment more. And then Marnie kind of is just like, well, this is not fun for me anymore, so I'm going to disengage. I do really love that you changed your play strategy. So when that strategy wasn't working anymore, you're like, okay, let's stand up here and move. That was exactly what you wanted to do, because same thing. We see the dogs do the same thing. When one strategy doesn't work, we're going to go do something else instead. Oh, you don't want me to pounce on you anymore? Let's run around in circles instead. Oh, you don't want to be on the floor? You want to be standing again? Okay, cool. Let's play where both of us are standing. So I do really love that you changed your play strategy to being a different position. Really smart. Right here, this was a really brief moment. I probably would have dramatized this pause here and held that tension right here. Held. There. That's it right there. That is the moment. That's a pause. We love to see it. Hold the tension. Hold the tension. And even right here, you went and put your hand on her face. You didn't hold that tension anymore. You touched her too fast. I would have held it and let her decide, how does she want to break that tension, right? Nice little explosion out of that more strict confined moment into a chase. I really loved that. I love it when I see if there's going to be sort of confined play and we're going to be really close to each other. Let's see if we can explode out of that in some sort of run. Again, we would see the same thing with the dogs, right? Where, they're going to be tackling, and then they're going to run and chase each other or something, right? There's going to be some sort of explosion out of that tension moment. With the tug,
Go get it.
so this moment right here, I find interesting. I have absolutely no context and there's no reason why I should even fathom a guess of why Marnie would decide to come this way instead of bring it back right. That could be for literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 103 different reasons. Okay, so I'm not even going to begin to guess why that is. But if I see a dog who's consciously deciding to take the toy at an angle from me and not directly to me, then I might do a couple of things. I might say, oh, you want to move in a circle? And I might, ask, are you doing this because you're looking for more circular play? And if that's the case, then if I'm guardian here, I would move this way around the kitchen. If Marnie's going to come this way, I'm going to move that way to make that big wide circle, right? As opposed to just kind of cutting her off and pulling the toy back in, where she now has to kind of appease us and do what we want for her play. And if you are going to step in and try to steal it, which isn't, again, not inherently a bad thing, but if you are going to do that, perhaps you ask before you take, you don't just steal, right? Perhaps you go in, you hold that tension and see if she's going to give you the toy back, right? Imagine for a moment if this person, if they were a dog and Marnie was coming into a room with a toy in her mouth and this other dog just came up and said, I'm taking that out of your mouth. We probably would be like, bruh, maybe just ask nicely next time, right? Maybe pause for even a millisecond to check in that that's okay for you to take. That's all we're asking for, right? Just give Marnie the decency of a pause, of holding that tension there for a second to see how she feels about it, and let her be like, yeah, I'm cool for you playing. That's nice. I do love, what I love about this moment is you do move the toy in a circular fashion. So she's able to kind of, it's almost like she's starting a spin kind of, right, with the toy. I love that. I think that's very clever. Right here, that's a great moment to hold that tension a little bit more firmly, a little bit more, for lack of a better word, with more intention, right? More intentionality with that pause. You do give a pause, but I just want you to exacerbate that moment a little bit more. Let it really sit in that tension before you continue to take the toy away from her and shake it, right? Team Marty, you can type in the chat any clarifying questions on anything I just said. Is it okay that my husband shakes the toy where he's tugging, or is that bad for her neck? If your question is that bad for her neck, I won't answer that. You need to ask your vet. Is it okay that my husband shakes the toy when tugging, like as far as a play style? For me, is it a commonplace thing? Is it usually safe? Yes. Can it be a problem? Yes. So if you're asking me like a blanket statement, is it okay that my husband shakes the toy? The real answer is, I don't know, ask Marnie. But on a principle based, it would be generally, yeah, in the same way that it's okay when dogs mount, and it's okay when dogs shake, a piece of fur in their mouth. It's okay when if you're talking in generalities on a high level, yes, that shaking is good, is fine, it's normal. And in fact, it comes from the shake in the predatory motor pattern sequence. There's literally something called shake. Now, if we're talking about that, how does that apply to Marnie? I don't know, you'd have to ask her.
No. 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 Where's your toy?
So just like context for that, I mean, Benny's been sick, but this is generally how she initiates wanting to play every time. And I cannot distract her with a toy. The only thing she wants to do is wrestle with me and like nibble on my sleeves or be chased. And I can't figure out how to redirect that nibbling on my sleeves and attacking me to like a toy or just anything else.
With Beignet, is your question, how do you get her to stop nipping? Or is the question how to get her to stop biting you?
Yeah, I guess like how, like obviously she wants to play. Like she's like excited and she wants my attention and she wants to do things. But how do I get her to do this in a way that isn't attacking me?
Mm-hmm. The question is, we have a dog, an adult dog, who is asking for play by nipping on mom's coat, mom's skin, mom's whatever. And the question is, how do we redirect? So there's a lot of answers to this. One of the reasons why I asked Holly, is the question, how do we get her to stop nipping? Or is the question, how to stop getting her to stop nipping your hand? Because there's a very big difference in those questions. If she's telling you, Mom, this is a way for me to get enrichment, it makes sense. We've just watched, an hour and a half of dogs biting each other, and that's what they do. So if the question is, why is she doing it and what is the function of it? The function of it is that she's engaging in social play as far as her genetics are concerned, right? As far as her human or her dog brain is concerned. Now, if the question is, how do we get her to not do it towards you? There's a lot of answers to that. And we do not have the time to deep dive on all of it. Perhaps we will at the end of our hour and a half, and I'd be happy to circle back to it if this answer does not suffice, because I could do 2-hour podcast on just this conversation. Okay. But the first thing that I would be asking a guardian who was asking about how to solve this is, do you just need her to have more bite inhibition where she is not hurting you? Or do you need her to not put her mouth anywhere near your hands ever for any reason? Two very different things. If you're looking for bite inhibition and you just want her to be more aware of how she's using her teeth, how she's using her mouth, then you would probably be looking for a little bit more stimulus control and having her practice with other objects first. And you would probably, depending on the dog, I don't know if I would say this for sure for Benny, but we're just going to talk about in general. Depending on the dog, I might have a firm disengage policy where the second that a bite is too rough or too impaired, I immediately walk away and end that training session to make it black and white that that is not how I want to engage in play. And if it is okay, then we continue to talk, we continue to pause, we continue to scratch, we continue to do all those things. And the second that it's too painful, I would walk away and end that play session. Now, I do want to give the disclaimer, though, that can cause extinction, which the gist of that is that you can make a dog very, very frustrated where they feel like they're hitting a wall and they're not actually learning anything. So the reason I'm not willing to like firmly recommend it for Benny is because A, never met Benny, don't really know a whole lot of what she's got going on. And B, because I don't know if doing that methodology of having a hard stop is going to instill extinction in her and make her very frustrated. Now, if the question is, how do I get her to just bite something else? You could, in theory, offer her things. You could say, would you like to bite this one instead? Would you like to bite that thing instead? Would you like to bite that thing instead? Here's why that would work, and here's why that wouldn't work, because sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And it has nothing to do with the strategies. It has everything to do with the dog and what the dog is asking. So if a dog is asking by biting for social play, that is, they want interaction with the human. They want to play with the human in the way that they would play with a dog. Then offering something else for the dog to bite on doesn't always work really, because it's not meeting the same need, right? You go up and you give a Kong for the dog to chew, but the dog doesn't want to chew. The dog wants interaction with mom. And the dog wants to have contact, physical contact with mom. The other thing is if the dog is asking to chew, you would need to make sure that it's a comparable texture or a comparable, like I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like bite pressure, because one of the things that I see a lot, and this is actually more common with puppy raising than it is with adults, but it can be with adults. But one of the things that I see a lot is like, okay, dog is biting on hand, and then the solution is, let me go get a stuffed animal for the dog to chew on, or let me go get a tennis ball, or let me get a really, really, really tough Kong. None of those are comparable to how your hand feels, right? That's one of the reasons why those rubber ones, the Kongs with the rubbers, are actually more comparable to how your hand feels, because it's tough enough to bite into, but it doesn't shred into pieces. You going and offering a stuffed animal, and I'm not saying Holly does this, I'm just saying a guardian offering a stuffed animal to their dog is like being like, oh, you want to play basketball? Let me offer you tennis instead. It's like, they're both balls, but they're completely different games, bruh, right? So you would want to be looking at what is the type of enrichment that the dog in front of me is asking for, and how can I offer a comparable trade for that type of enrichment. Holly, any clarifying questions of what I've unpacked for you there?
No, I think there's some good things to think about, for sure. Yeah. I think we're more on the inhibition side of things. Like I don't hate it. I just don't want her.
Look into Fenzi Dog Sports bite courses. I think they're like $27 or something, but those are really good to teach bite inhibition.
Okay.
Yeah, as a skill set, as opposed to just one of the things, and this kind of digresses just a little bit, but one of the things that I think needs to be more commonplace in dog culture is not assuming that a bite needs to be removed from the dog's repertoire, but it actually just needs some boundaries and context around it. And perhaps with the right context, you can still meet that social need that Benny's asking for without walking away bloody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I can tell that it's like her favorite activity, and I don't mind it as long as she isn't nipping and bruising. On occasion that does happen. So yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Sweet.
This one is just like a friend's dog who would like her to play with more often. It's a baby.
Oh, this is a good video.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, this is a good video.
You can see it's
Ooh, what a fun video. I'm so glad you added this one. Okay, lots of things to unpack here. You're absolutely right. She is a little bit more sensitive, but that's okay. She's working through things. What I love about this video is the other dog is like, man, that dog's in her own little world. She's like, oh, you're feeling sensitive? That's cool. Let me go figure things out on my own. So they like greet for a second. Floof dog figures out real quickly, oh, you're feeling sensitive?
Oh, yeah.
Fine. I'm just gonna let you be and give you my butt. Is this you, Holly?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta leave that white dog alone. She was doing what she needed to do to help Beignet. So what I really love about this moment, I don't know who Floof. Do we know Floof's dog's name?
Cap. Yeah.
What is
Captain.
it?
Captain.
Great, Captain. I had a Captain growing up. So Captain is very clever. Boy, girl?
Boy.
Perfect. Captain's got things figured out here. So Captain comes in and he's like, hey, bud, what's up, Beignet? I'm Captain. He makes himself immediately low. He lowers that head. He puts his tail off to the right and really tucks himself, makes him all small for Beignet. And goes straight up to her groin. They're going to do this nice little circular sniff, which is really polite. Everything's fantastic. I think Beignet Captain probably figures out pretty rapidly that Beignet is feeling some sort of way. He's probably picking that up off her behavior, off her pheromones. And what's really cool is she decides to offer this very nice displacement behavior where she's going to disengage, Captain is going to disengage. He's going to all of a sudden become so enthralled with the floor and start sniffing. Isn't this floor so amazing? And then he's going to do this really polite thing. Yeah. He's going to turn his rear to her and be like, did you want to smell my rear? Is that going to be really helpful for you? Of course, they're still going to keep movement because movement is healthy. We don't want to, be confrontational in any way. And Captain's going to make a nice little curve. He's going to be like, hey, let me become so interested in this space over here and make a turn around this human that I see. The only thing that I would change about this is Captain was being so polite to Beignet and so courteous and aware of how Beignet was feeling. I would not have interrupted Captain in that moment. Keep your hands off him. He's doing work, okay? And he knows he's happy. You probably could have talked to him if you really wanted, but by you bending over and kind of touching him, you're breaking the intention of this moment, right? Okay. And I would have just let this communication happen as dog and organically as possible. And what I really love, again, nice curve. This curve around Captain, I know he's all tangled up at this point with the leash, but Captain doesn't come make a beeline for Beignet again. He's still got this very aloof demeanor. He's not pulling his body into her. He's not giving her direct eye contact. He's making himself circular. He's staying low to the ground. He keeps his hocks right here bent, and he keeps himself really like on the floor to make himself small so that he's not as confrontational. Lots of wiggle, lots of like puppy pounces. Look at that, bounce back and forth. I'm just gonna tag you it. Tag, pounce back. Tag, pounce back. How do you feel about that? Lots of bounces, lots of like little bounce. Oh, I don't know who this dog is, but he's well socialized. Like he figured out Beignet. So if you have a way to get back with him, is he in your network?
Yeah, it's a friend's dog.
I would be keeping him around. He's a good friend for Beignet, at least at this stage, right? Because he's got real awareness of, at the very least, he's got a lot of awareness of how Beignet is feeling, and that's really all that matters at this point. Now, having decoded all of that, let's talk about our girl. She is holding more tension, and we can see how tight she's holding herself in this square. She kind of maintains this square posture, sometimes triangle posture. She kind of maintains that pretty much the whole time. I'm going to mute it so we don't have echo anymore. But if you watch her, she pretty much holds all her paws pretty close to each other pretty continuously throughout. One of the ways that you can start to measure her comfort perhaps is how she's able to put more space between those four paws so that she's no longer as square. Maybe she's going to position herself more rectangularly. that might be a measure of her progress. Something to track. Actually, let me watch this. I'm going to go quiet again, but I'm just watching for something. It's too hard to see in this video. Perhaps, I think I'm trying to remember exactly, but I feel like we've had conversations about her tail before, right? And I would maybe want to see, like, the curl obviously is there, but she's doing something with how she's moving her tail, like in the direction. She's really, sometimes it's moving both right and left. Sometimes it's moving just right. Sometimes she's moving both left. I don't know what she's doing with it, I'll be honest. But I just intuitively feel like there's something that she's trying to say with, see how sometimes she's moving it both ways. It's going on both sides of her hips. Sometimes she's going to flick it just to the right. Sometimes it's going to flick just to the left. There's just to the left there. Yeah, I don't know. I would watch that tail. It seems like she's giving something there. Her ears, I know her ears go back a lot. What I will say though is what I love about her is that she's sniffing. Like she does that, she allows for this really nice moment. And she actually kind of sort of initiates. I mean, it could be argued that Captain initiated depending on how you look at it, but it doesn't matter. The point is she engages in this nice little like rear sniff. And I think that let me watch this for a second. Okay, there's the pause. That's what I was waiting for. So yeah, it does come. I was wrong. So she gives this nice little like sniff, right? And then there was no actual like check-in. So she kind of springboards, right? And she kind of like repositions her body to pause for a moment to see like, how do we feel about this? And that's that little pause. Although Captain's just, he's bouncy. He's living his best life. Yeah, that's a really fascinating video. If you end up having more of those two playing, I would get more videos because I feel like they're an interesting little unlikely pair almost. But so far, out of 21 seconds, there's a lot going on here.
Okay, thank you.
Questions on anything I just unpacked there?
No, I definitely like want to spend more time watching her ears and her tail because they're very expressive, and I don't know, just know what's going on.
Yep. Cool. Is Samantha still here?
I'm still here.
Did you want me to look at Ziggy's video?
You can look at it. I feel like it's a very basic dog play. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you can watch it.
It's good to see smaller breeds that we've only looked at larger breeds mostly today, so it's good to see some smaller breeds. Oh, look at that. Yay. Good dog. I don't know what gender you are. There's a pause. Ooh, nice solid pause. This is a good video. You're right. I'm gonna steal this one. Yep. Oh, there's the shake ass. Lots of decompression. That was a good video. Do these two dogs know each other a lot?
Yeah, that's Ziggy's only friend, and Ziggy's usually a bully with other dogs, so they play a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for submitting that one. I'm going to use that one. So this video is from Team River. She's not here today, but I'm going to let this one play so y'all can see it, and then we're going to talk about it. Okay, so as you can see, they literally just run around in circles in the tree. One of the reasons why I like this is goes back to what we were talking about before, where circles are really important and they can be very sociable, healthy play. But the reason I love this is because sometimes putting a landmark or clear object that kind of implies a circular motion can be really helpful in a space. So sometimes if you guys are trying to get like dogs to play or something and it feels pretty stiff, sometimes putting like a really big landmark between them where it's a significant tree or a bench or something for them to circle around and kind of rehearse that motion can be good, healthy engagement. They're both getting chances to chase, both getting chances to lead. Just a solid strategy there. Now, is Gabi in the room? I don't know.
I am.
Oh, perfect. Anything you want us to look at as I pull these videos up?
Unfortunately, they're like a year old, but Scout, the black and white dog, she's the more anxious, skittish. The only thing I knew about her history was she lived with really big dogs that would like bite her collar off. So unfortunately, in all these, she has her collar on, but I think I want to be more intentional with taking her collar off in the future. Also, she's a herding breed and Nova is a staffy. So the brown one will bite a lot more. My boyfriend's really good about telling me, let them figure it out because I usually want to intervene a lot sooner. I think that's all the context. And yeah, one of them didn't have sound, unfortunately, I think.
Lots of pauses here. Lots of check-ins. Look at that deal. Look at that deal. Yeah. I like this video because in fact, I would be curious. In fact, maybe the other video, there's another video you submitted? Yeah, there it is. They are in a bed. Okay. I'd be curious to see how they play like in an open space where they're not on a bed because they may be adapting their play because they're on a bed.
Right. I think there's one I uploaded where they start on the bed, but then they get off.
Lots of pauses there. Lots of open mouths. Not a lot of actual biting. Is that common that they like actually won't bite?
Yeah, I don't think Scout usually bites. Nova usually bites her neck a lot.
Jesus.
Yeah, Nova's in motion now.
Careful. It's so funny.
Careful, puppies.
But there's a lot of regulation there.
Yeah.
She brings herself back down. She sees that Scout's not like playing. Like she's like, not about that. And then they regulate the energy of the space. And Nova goes, okay, fine. We'll chill out here. So they're responding to each other.
Yeah.
Any questions on anything I unpacked there?
No, I don't think so. I think I have to get used to Nova being a staffy. I don't know. She loves biting. Yeah, playfully. And I think Scout, you said it earlier, Jenna. I forgot how you worded it, just in terms of like dogs knowing like their pain tolerance or like threshold.
Yeah.
Scout seemed to like always yelp so quickly, but now she doesn't do it, I think, nearly as fast, which is good.
Yeah. And also like for me, I worry a lot less about like, is the dog biting? And I worry a lot more about, does dog A know how to tell dog B that they don't like that? And does dog B know how to listen and understand what dog A is saying when they're saying? So that matters a lot more than like, oh, they're biting each other. Like, well, You know, thank you for that. The only ones we didn't get through are Team Crush. Let me pull these guys up. Wow, I have so many questions. Wow, so many questions. Here, let me watch the other video and then I'll unpack my thinking. Nice little standoffs there. These are good video standoffs. So I'm pretty sure the dog doing all the talking is Crush. The dog that's going to do all the talking is this dog back here with the more teal collar. And then we have our, I think it's purple or pink collar right here. So now, if you're able to, because your dog is comfortable with it, I highly recommend you turn up your volume. And I don't even want you guys to really pay attention to the visual, like the video doesn't matter right now. I just want you guys to hear the sounds that the dogs are making. That's all I want you to do right now is just listen to the sounds, all of them. Okay, so what did we notice about the sounds? You guys can either unmute yourselves or type in the chat.
I think it started with pauses in the noises. Like there would be like big sighs or even the growl, like I said growling, it was like low growl, was almost in like 3-second intervals, like almost at the very start. Then the dog started talking. When the dog started talking, there was very little like pause, break, etc. It was just continuous from my
Okay. Anyone else notice anything about the sounds? I'll play it again. All right, what do we notice about the sounds? The barks sounded a bit stressed to me. Okay, why do you say that, Gigi or Christine?
Well, in part, my dog, Gigi, kind of responded to them more concerned than otherwise. But then also it sounded kind of high pitched.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of like a like on the top of the palate aspect to it.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So Cash did too. Okay. So fascinating. It's interesting to hear that the dogs responded to that. More breathy at first, lots of sniffing and exhaling. The sounds escalated in volume with less breaths and sped up. Yep. So what we notice, and this time I'm going to have it on mute, but we know effectively as soon as the dog starts standing over here and starts barking that the voice sounds, right? And the actual sound itself changes. What we know is that when they're all real close to each other, Jonathan hit it right on the head. There's more breaks. You can actually hear the mumble pauses. There is a lot more mumbling. It's more gurgly. It's down in the chest. It's meant to just communicate to the three of them, right? It's not meant for, they're not talking to anyone else other than the three of them. They're all having a conversation, right? And then tension's going to break. We talk about why it broke and we talk about what's going on here. Doesn't really matter. The point is they all start spreading out, and then doggo over here is like, let me talk to the world. And a couple of things on this. One thing, I think this is Crush. I don't know if Crush is teal or purple, but we'll just call Crush teal. If you notice, she barks and then she looks back at Mom. She bark, bark, bark. Mom, are you seeing this? Mom. Let me go back over here. She's gonna come over here. So bark, bark, bark. Look at her, look at Mom. Mom, bark, Mom, bark, bark, bark. Mom. Look at her paws, right? And she just keeps checking up over her shoulder. There's one of the ways that we know that she's no longer barking at just the two of them, but she's at least barking for more people or more individuals to be aware of the conversation. That's one way, is that she keeps looking back at her over her shoulder. The other way that we know is, as Christine pointed out, the sound itself is also more high-pitched. And I'm not making this up. This is 100% serious. This is not a Jenna like hot take. This is like legitimate science, okay? That sound, that high-pitched, that sound has been nicknamed the lonely bark, as in lonely, as in alone bark. And the hypothesis, the theory, the guess by some researchers, even though there's no way really to prove this and we may never know, the guess is that that lonely bark actually evolved for humans. It probably started off, at least the theory goes, it probably started off when pups were left alone from their moms and they needed to emit a higher pitch sound to get further distance out of the sound so that their moms could hear. And it has evolved primarily in domestication because dogs were left by themselves and they no longer had their human guardians, or they no longer had their shelter, they no longer had their resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we can definitely hear the difference between a bark that is meant for other dogs versus a bark that is meant for not just dogs to hear, okay? And so the running theory is this high-pitched voice that Crush has given us is actually not, at least not just for the dogs, if not entirely for her guardian. And then that begs the question, if we're running with that theory, what does Crush think everyone else around needs to know about what's happening over here, right? Why would all of a sudden the conversation go just from the three of them mumbling to Crush being like, you know what? I think we need to make sure other people know about what's happening over here. I need to make sure that Mom knows. I need to make sure the neighbors know. Apparently, we need to make sure the other dogs know, because all of our dogs got perked up at those barks and demonstrated perhaps more stress. Why all of a sudden has this conversation gone just from three to Crush believing, onlookers need to be more aware of what's happening? And I don't know, is the short answer to that question. I have no idea why Crush would think that other people need to know. Certainly a very common hypothesis or common ideology is that the dogs are policing and that the dogs are trying to correct the other dogs in the way that they're playing, and they're trying to get the leaders of the social dynamic to come in and add more structure to how the playing is going. So the logic, if you were going to run with that idea, the logic would be Crush no longer likes the way the other two dogs are playing. Crush believes that there needs to be some sort of intervention in the way that they're playing, and Crush believes that she needs to bark louder to let her guardians and potentially neighbors and potentially other dogs to know, hey, this is wrong and there needs to be some sort of intervention. Can a leader come in and please stand up, right? That would be the logic. Am I saying that's what's happening here? Absolutely, unequivocally not. Do not say that that is what I'm saying here, because I don't know. It could also be that Crush got hurt. I mean, the argument could be perhaps Crush, when they were all in the three of them and having their little mumbles, Crush, got her paw bit the wrong way and now she's hurt and she needs some sort of leader or social dynamic leader to come in and help her because she's injured or she feels weak or she feels disempowered in some way. That could also be an equally justifiable explanation of what happened in that video. Having said all of that, I think what's most interesting about that play dynamic, first of all, as I said, watching that, I had a lot of questions about what was going on there. Like, I would just love to know what the hell was happening in that play session, because little, white dog, my dog was just like playing dead. And I don't know if that's a common thing for them. Perhaps it is, perhaps not. I really don't know. Can dogs sometimes play dead? Absolutely. They will sometimes just be like, go limp. And I think that that is fun, and the world is rainbows and daisies in that play strategy. So is that what's happening? I don't know. Do I think it's interesting that white dog was on the floor and just being like, ah, and the other two dogs were going to town on her ears? It certainly begs a lot of questions. And that is my synthesis of that video. Okay. Any questions about any of the play analyses I've done today whatsoever? Dog play, social play, all that. Or maybe just comments. Like, was this helpful? Did you learn anything? Super helpful. Can I ask a question on something not filmed? Yes, Claire, absolutely. Unsure how you do this for 4 straight hours. I'm also unsure. I can tell you my Ritalin is gone. So it ain't the ADHD meds, that's for sure. I can't wait to look for different body language I wasn't watching out for before. Sweet. Love to hear that. That makes me really happy. Melissa learned a lot. Thank you. Pepper does a bow pounce. Are you saying like a play bow, or are you saying like a forefoot stab, or is it a combination? With rapid barking that is sometimes directed at a dog that's also inviting play. Other times it's directed at a cat or a duck. Yeah, cool. Any tips to help gauge intent, play versus prey? It's the same thing, especially with big size difference, toy breed dogs or interspecies interactions. I mean, okay, I'm going to argue same thing, but I understand why someone would hate me for saying that. So I'm going to argue both sides, I guess, but I'm leaning more towards it's the same thing. So like hunting down food is fun. There's a reason why we exercise as humans. It's because it used to be that exercise was the way we fed ourselves, and we like feeding ourselves. So, going through predatory behavior is fun. So it would make sense that it has some overlap and is like self-reinforcing. I think the key phrase or the key word that you chose here was any tips to help gauge intent. This is very important. Not the play versus prey like you wrote here. That's not the intent that we actually need to determine. The intent we would need to determine is kill or not kill. And I'm serious, okay? And this kind of goes back to what we're talking about, bite inhibition, where like at some point the dogs have to learn, like there's a line, right? And what's really cool is that the dogs, when they're dog-dog social play, when it's dog-human social play, in general, for the average dog, they come pretty well equipped with basic awareness of, and I'm talking in high generalities for the vast majority of dogs, they come with pretty well equipped with an inhibition to know if they do not intend to kill this thing, they should probably stop at some point. Okay. Now apply that same theory to a cat or a duck. They probably, it's on a case by case basis. There are some dogs who are going to absolutely see a cat and be like, I will kill you now. And there are other dogs that will be like, I think I don't want to kill you. I'm going to impose my own little inhibition and save us all of the mess. Same goes with the duck. So the real question that you need to ask is not, is it play or is it prey? Is my dog intending to kill this thing, or does my dog have an awareness that if she keeps going, there will be a problem? The animal's going to die. That's really what you need to determine. Now, if you said, like, especially with big size difference, toy breed dogs, or again, that's different. Same species interaction versus different species interactions, or like the behavior is similar. The context or parameters or boundaries of that behavior is different. So, for example, my Maxwell, he had, like, I was never going to let him play with a little Bichon Frise. That just wasn't going to happen. That little dog would die. He was not going to look at that dog and be like, you're a dog, I'll stop. No, he would look at that dog and say, bunny. Okay, so I just knew we're not going to put my Dalmatian in a play session with a Bichon Frise anytime soon. Not going to happen. So sometimes you just have to know that that's a thing. And that comes down to good guardianship. How do you tell if there is a kill risk? I mean, what an interesting question. How much time you got? So a couple things on this. All of the answers I'm about to say are all true. One, you'll never know. You'll never know intent of your dog. You'll never know intent of someone else's dog. You can learn all of the dog. You could have 80 PhDs in canine science ranging in fields, and you'll still not be able to tell intent. Any researcher worth a damn will tell you that the reason we separate between function and intent, and we can often, through science, investigate and come up with pretty reasonable understandings of function, but it's much harder to come up with reasonable understandings of intent, is because intent is more philosophical, whereas function is more, what does it accomplish, right? What does the animal get out of the behavior versus what was the logic, or what was the premeditation to get to before the behavior, right? And so if you're asking, how will you know the intent of an animal? The answer is always you won't, because it's a philosophical question. And until we can have good conversations with animals, it's just not going to happen. Now, if you're asking through a more like trainer, or what we would call applied behavior analysis lens, then we're going to gauge based off of, first of all, animal history. Has the animal killed things? B, we're going to look at, what's the word I'm looking for? Determination? That's still not the right word, but we'll go with it. The determination after having already been asked to not follow through. So, for example, you go out with a dog and they see a squirrel and you're like, no, don't do that. And they're like, but I really want to. And you said, no, don't do that. And they say, but I really want to. And they say, no, don't do that. I say, okay, that's different than, no, don't do that. But, no, please don't do that. But, no, I really don't do it. I don't care. No, I really don't want you to do that, but I want that thing. No, I really don't want you to do, I don't care. Very different behaviors, right? And so if I see a dog that is determined and just does not care, then I'm like, please don't do that. I probably am not going to let that dog off leash near that squirrel. and expect Squirrely to live to tell the tale, unless Squirrely is like super athletic. I'm happy that's helpful because it said a lot of nothing, but I like to be accurate. So I feel like it's important to get both answers. Good. I'm glad it made sense. Any other questions on play behavior? My dog can't get past sniffing other dogs. So I think you're saying, Jasmine, that she just stays fixated on the sniff, right? And doesn't actually initiate. Like, a couple things on that. To me, that tells me there's a lot of things that could be happening there. And without a full, makes other dogs super unhappy. Yeah, I bet there's a couple things that could be happening there. And like, videos would help me, but also I'm happy to talk in generalities. When I see a dog that is getting stuck in the sniffing loop, when the context or the social engagement calls for more play, like after the sniffing, some things that happen there is that the dog either A, is overstimulated and isn't able to think logically in order to reciprocate play. And so the sniffing is actually perhaps and sometimes detrimental to the dog. Even though we always glorify sniffing, sometimes that sniffing is actually detrimental because it's just giving the dog more information to process without the ability to know how to process it. So sometimes that's happening. Sometimes it's a displacement behavior. So it's actually a stress response. And sometimes it's that the dog does not have enough social skills to know how to mimic or to know how to engage. And so they just sort of kept repeating the same behavior over and over and over again because it's the only one that feels safe, at least, if like certain to them, like, I know what I'm doing. I'm sniffing. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Okay, everybody play cool. I'm gonna sniff her groin because that's what dogs do. Here we go. We're doing it. And meanwhile, all the other dogs are like, bruh, like, you gonna play? Like, what the hell? So sometimes it's just a lack of social skills. Sometimes, I would say in most cases, if I see a dog like that, I'm going to say probably overstimulated at some degree. So let's see if we can remove some of the dogs, make sure there's only one dog in front of her. Let me see if the other dog is able to ask her to play. Like, hey, are you down to mimic me? Are you going to do a play bow? Are you down to do a forefoot stab? I'm going to make sure that the other dog is doing that. I'm also going to see, can I get the sniffing dog to disengage? So the arousal game we did today, can we get her to initiate a pause at least by herself and ideally with us? So can we get her to give us a pause where she's pausing with me, the guardian, not if she's not able to pause with the other dogs in the space? Yeah. Okay, my friends, that's all I've got tonight. Thank you very much. I'm glad this was helpful. And I will see y'all very soon. Bye, guys.